Let me tell you something we all quietly know but rarely admit. We spend most of our lives trying to control what was never really ours to control. We plan, we push, we hustle, we chase perfection, believing that if we can just manage every detail, everything will finally feel okay. But control is the sweetest illusion, isn't it? It gives us the sense that life owes us stability, that if we do everything right, chaos will spare us. And yet, no matter how tightly we hold on, the universe always finds a way to remind us that it moves to its own rhythm. There's a moment, somewhere between exhaustion and awakening, when you realize that all your striving has only led you in circles. You start to see that the harder you try to force life to obey, the further peace slips from your hands. It's like clutching a handful of water. The tighter you grip, the faster it escapes through your fingers. That's when the truth begins to whisper. You were never meant to control it all. You were meant to dance with it. You see, letting go isn't weakness. It's not giving up. It's not saying, I don't care anymore. It's the quiet, courageous act of trust. Trust that you can meet life as it comes, that you are strong enough to live without guarantees, that you can love without ownership and move without certainty. That kind of surrender takes more bravery than control ever did. I remember a friend who poured every ounce of herself into chasing one big opportunity, the kind of project she believed would define her worth. She worked day and night, revised every detail, rehearsed every sentence. She thought perfection was the price of success. But when it fell apart, she collapsed. For weeks she replayed every mistake, every mischance. And then one day, she just stopped. She took a breath. She whispered, maybe this wasn't a failure. Maybe this was protection. A few months later, she landed a project that aligned with her soul in ways she couldn't have imagined. That's what happens when you let go. You make space for the life that's meant for you, not the one you've been forcing. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. Because somewhere inside you, there's a deep knowing that you're tired. Tired of forcing, tired of pretending, tired of carrying the world on your shoulders. You crave the peace that comes not from control, but from release. The peace that says, even if things don't go my way, I'll still be okay. Buddhist wisdom calls this non-attachment. But let me be clear, non-attachment doesn't mean not caring. It means caring deeply, but without clutching. It means loving people, dreams, and moments with open hands. You can hold them, appreciate them, cherish them, but you don't trap them. Because when you trap something, you kill its spirit. When you hold it gently, you allow it to live. Think about how much energy you spend trying to make life bend to your will. You try to predict every outcome, to fix every flaw, to make everyone like you, to keep everything under control. It's exhausting, isn't it? But here's the thing. The peace you're chasing doesn't live at the end of more control. It lives in the middle of surrender. When you stop forcing, life starts flowing. The right people find you. The right opportunities rise to meet you. Even the challenges that come feel different, not like punishments, but like teachers. That's the magic of letting go. It doesn't mean life gets easier. It means you stop fighting with it. So maybe today's the day you release the illusion. Maybe it's time to unclench your fists and whisper to life, I'm ready to trust you. Maybe it's time to stop waiting for everything to be certain before you allow yourself to breathe. Because peace isn't found in certainty. It's found in presence. Right here. Right now. And if this message finds you at the edge of exhaustion, if some part of you feels that quiet ache, that need to finally stop fighting and start trusting, then stay with me. This channel exists for that reason. Here, we explore what it means to live awake, to let go with grace, to find strength not in control but in calm. So if you're ready to walk that path, not the easy one, but the honest one, then take a second, hit subscribe, and keep walking with me. Because this journey isn't about escaping life. It's about meeting it fully with open hands, open eyes, and an open heart. The kind of letting go I'm talking about doesn't make you smaller. It makes you limitless. When you release the need to control every outcome, you make space for something far greater than your plans. You make space for peace. So take a deep breath. Let it in. Let it go. And remember, you were never meant to hold everything together. You were meant to experience the beauty of watching it all unfold. Let's talk about the mind, that beautiful, restless, overworked machine inside your head that never seems to shut up. You know what I mean. The endless analysis, the replaying of conversations, the constant what-ifs. It's like living with a roommate who never stops talking. You lie in bed at night, staring at the ceiling, and that voice just won't quit, reminding you of everything you said wrong, everything that could go wrong, and everything you're not. You think you're thinking your way toward peace, but you're really just spinning deeper into noise. We call it overthinking, but it's more than that. It's a symptom of a deeper belief that if we can think enough, we can control the future, that if we can analyze every detail, we can prevent pain. But here's the truth. No amount of thinking will ever outsmart uncertainty. You can't logic your way to peace. You can only surrender your way to it. There was a time in my life when I believed the opposite. I thought that the more I thought, the wiser I was becoming. I'd replay conversations, dissect choices, rehearse responses to things that hadn't even happened yet. I called it preparation, but really, it was fear wearing a smart disguise. Fear of making a wrong move. Fear of looking foolish. Fear of losing control. The result? I wasn't living. I was existing in a mental maze of my own creation. It took me years to learn what I'm about to tell you. Your thoughts are not the truth. They're stories. Some useful, most recycled, and many inherited from a world that never asked what you truly believe. You are not your thoughts. You're the one who watches them. And once you realize that, you're free. There's a teaching in Buddhism that says the mind is like muddy water. Stir it up and it's cloudy. Leave it alone and it clears on its own. The same is true for your life. You don't find clarity by thinking harder. You find it by becoming still. That's why some of your clearest insights arrive in silence. In the shower, on a walk, staring at the sunset. Because peace doesn't shout. It whispers. And you can't hear it if your mind never stops talking. I once worked with someone who spent weeks agonizing over whether to take a new job. She wrote lists, sought advice, read books, pulled tarot cards, anything that could give her certainty. One day, I asked her, "Have you ever stopped thinking about it long enough to feel what's true?" She went quiet. That silence was the first real moment of clarity she'd had in months. Within days, she knew exactly what to do, not because she thought harder, but because she listened deeper. That's the power of stillness. It's not the absence of thought. It's the awareness that thought doesn't have to control you. It's realizing that between stimulus and response, there's a space. And in that space, you get to choose peace. So the next time your mind starts racing, try this. Pause. Don't fight the thought. Don't label it as bad or good. Just notice it. Watch it drift by like a cloud. Don't chase it. Don't push it away. Just witness it. When you do, you start to see that thoughts lose power the moment you stop believing them. In those moments of stillness, something profound happens. You begin to feel a quiet strength rising from within. Not the kind that shouts, not the kind that needs to prove anything. It's the kind that says, I don't need to control this moment to be safe. That's the real freedom. And listen, If this is something you struggle with, if your mind feels like it's running a marathon that never ends, you're not alone. I've been there. Everyone watching this has been there. This channel is for you. The overthinker, the worrier, the one who's tired of carrying the noise. If you haven't yet, take a second to subscribe. Not because I'm chasing numbers, but because maybe, just maybe, the message that saved me might help you too. Week after week, we dive into what it means to live awake, to quiet the storm inside, to trade noise for presence. And if even one of these reflections helps you breathe a little deeper, helps you forgive yourself a little sooner, then it's worth it. You see, peace isn't the absence of thought. It's the space between them. It's that small, sacred pause when you stop fighting with your mind and start listening to your soul. And when you begin to live from that place, you discover something amazing. Life doesn't require constant control. It requires constant awareness. So tonight, when the mind starts spinning, when the worries pile up, don't try to think your way out. Just breathe. Let silence do what thinking never could. Because peace has been waiting for you, not in the next answer, but in the quiet between the questions. Let's talk about caring. Really caring. The kind that makes your heart ache and your chest tighten. Because when you love deeply, when you give everything you've got, it's so easy to cross that invisible line between care and control. You start out wanting to help, to protect, to make things better. But somewhere along the way, your love becomes a kind of management. You find yourself trying to fix people, correct them, guide them, shape them into what you think is best for them. And you call it love. But if you're honest, it's fear wearing the mask of love. Fear that if you let go, they'll leave. Fear that if you stop helping, you'll stop mattering. Fear that if you don't hold it all together, everything will fall apart. But here's the truth. Real love doesn't control. Real love allows. It's like sunlight. It gives warmth and energy, but it never clings. The moment you start controlling, you stop loving and start possessing. You suffocate the very thing you want to keep alive. Have you ever noticed that when you try to make someone stay, they pull away harder? When you loosen your grip, that's when people breathe. That's when they choose to stay. Not because they're trapped, but because they're free. I learned this the hard way. There was someone in my life I cared about more than words could say. I wanted the best for them so badly that I began to shape my world around their happiness. I thought I was helping, but really, I was trying to rescue them from lessons they needed to learn on their own. And when they started to drift away, I panicked. I begged, I reasoned, I overextended myself. But nothing worked. Eventually, I had to face the truth. Love is not about fixing someone. It's about standing beside them as they fix themselves. That realization broke me. But it also freed me. When you stop trying to control everything you care about, you don't lose power. You gain peace. You start to see that people don't need saving as much as they need space to grow. And maybe, just maybe, that's what love really is. The courage to step back and trust that what's meant to stay will stay. Now, let's talk about something equally powerful, validation. We live in a world obsessed with it. Every comment, every compliment, they hit like a tiny dose of dopamine. You start craving it, needing it, building your sense of self around it. And without even realizing it, your peace becomes something you outsource. You hand the world the keys to your worth and say, "Tell me who I am today." But let me ask you this. What happens when the applause stops? When no one's watching, no one's clapping, no one's validating your existence? Do you still feel whole? Do you still know who you are? Here's what I've learned. If your peace depends on someone else's approval, you'll spend your life begging for scraps of confidence. But when you learn to validate yourself, When you begin to see your own light without waiting for the world to notice, everything changes. You stop performing. You start living. You stop asking, am I enough? And begin declaring, I already am. That's when you step into what I call the whatever mindset. Not the careless kind of whatever, not the jaded shrug of someone who's given up, but the grounded kind. The kind that says, whatever happens, I remain whole. Because life will not always go your way. People will misunderstand you. Plans will crumble. Opportunities will slip through your fingers. But if your peace depends on things going right, you'll never find rest. When you build peace from within, nothing outside of you can take it away. You start meeting life as it is, not as you demand it to be. That's freedom. That's power. You know, I used to think maturity was about caring less. Now I know it's about caring wiser. You can love deeply without losing yourself. You can show up for others without disappearing. You can give everything you have without emptying your soul. Because the truth is, balance isn't found in giving or withholding. It's found in knowing where you end and where the world begins. So if you're someone who gives too much, who feels too much, who tries too hard to hold everyone together, this part is for you. You don't have to stop caring. You just have to start caring in a way that includes yourself. You're allowed to rest. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to let go. And if these words speak to something deep in you, if you feel that tug in your chest saying, yes, this is me, then stay here. This channel isn't just about words. It's about remembering who you are beneath the noise, beneath the need to prove, beneath the mask we all wear. Subscribe, not for me, but for you, because you deserve reminders like this, moments that pull you back home to yourself. In the end, love, peace, and freedom aren't things you chase. They're what's left when you stop chasing. So, Bree, let the world spin as it will. Let people come and go. Let plans change. And through it all, stay anchored in one quiet truth. You are already enough. You don't have to earn it. You just have to remember it. There comes a moment in every life when the ground shifts beneath your feet, when everything you thought was solid begins to dissolve. The plans you built, the identity you clung to, the version of yourself you swore you'd always be, it all starts to crumble. And your first instinct is panic. You think, what's happening to me? But what if that collapses in the end? What if it's the beginning? What if losing your footing is how life teaches you to fly? We fear uncertainty like it's an enemy. We call it chaos. We call it failure. We call it being lost. But I've come to see it differently. Uncertainty isn't a void, it's a womb. It's the space where your next self is being born. Think about it. A seed doesn't grow until it's buried in darkness. The caterpillar doesn't become the butterfly until it dissolves in the cocoon. Everything beautiful begins with surrender. So why do we expect our growth to come without the breaking? There was a season in my own life when everything I'd worked for suddenly stopped making sense. The goals I'd chased didn't excite me anymore. The version of success I'd been running towards started to feel like someone else's dream. For a while, I tried to hold it all together, to keep pretending I was fine, to force passion where there was only fatigue. But deep down I knew that chapter was closing. And I had two choices: keep gripping what was dying or let it die with grace. Letting go was terrifying. I didn't know who I'd be without that title, that identity, that sense of purpose. But the moment I stopped clinging, something remarkable happened. Space appeared. Stillness returned. And in that space, a new voice, quiet but steady, began to speak. It said, "You're not lost. You're being redefined." That's the thing about uncertainty. It strips away everything false until only truth remains. You see, control is just our way of trying to feel safe in a world that guarantees nothing. We think if we plan enough, work enough, fix enough, we can protect ourselves from pain. But the truth is, pain is not the problem. Resistance is. The more you resist change, the harder life becomes. The moment you relax into it, really breathe into the unknown, the fear starts to loosen its grip, because underneath the uncertainty, there's always a current pulling you somewhere meant for you. You don't have to fight the river. You just have to trust it. And trust doesn't mean passivity. It doesn't mean sitting back and waiting for magic. It means showing up fully, doing your part, staying present, while letting life do the rest. It's that balance between effort and ease, between intention and surrender. You move forward, but without that desperate grasping for control. You plant the seed, but you trust the soil. Another truth we forget: you don't have to fix everything. Somewhere along the way, many of us became the designated healers, the rescuers, the fixers. We walk into every situation thinking it's our job to make it right, to make everyone happy, to patch every crack. But not every crack is yours to seal. Not every storm needs your umbrella. Sometimes love means standing still and letting others learn their own lessons, even if it hurts to watch, because real compassion doesn't rescue, it respects. It understands that struggle is part of growth. There's a kind of sacred humility in saying, this isn't mine to carry. When you let go of fixing, you create room for miracles. You give others the gift of accountability. You give yourself the gift of peace. And suddenly, life starts feeling lighter. Not because it's easier, but because you're finally carrying only what's yours. And then comes the final truth: the art of doing less to be more. We live in a culture that worships busyness. We brag about exhaustion like it's a badge of honor. But all that noise and motion, it's just a distraction from what truly matters. You can run all day and still feel stuck. You can fill every hour and still feel empty. Because fulfillment doesn't come from doing more. It comes from aligning what you do with who you really are. So try this. Take a day, even just an hour, and do nothing. Not in the lazy, scrolling kind of way, but in the sacred, intentional kind of way. Sit in silence. Breathe. Listen. Feel the world move without you having to push it. At first, it'll feel uncomfortable, like withdrawal from a drug, but stay with it. Because underneath that discomfort, there's peace waiting. There's wisdom waiting. There's you waiting. And if this speaks to you, if you're standing in that in-between space right now, where the old life doesn't fit, but the new one hasn't yet formed, I want you to know something. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. This is not a mistake. It's an awakening. It's life making space for a truer version of you to emerge. So keep walking with me. If you haven't already, subscribe, not just to this channel, but to your own transformation. Every week, we're diving deeper into what it means to live free, live light, and live awake. Because this isn't about abandoning the world. It's about meeting it with open eyes and an open heart. Let go of control. Embrace the unknown. And remember, sometimes when everything falls apart, it's not the end of your story. It's just the moment when the author finally takes the pen from your hand. There's a moment after the storm, that quiet space where the air feels new and the sky seems wider than you remembered. That's where freedom begins. Not in the noise, not in the chasing, but in the soft afterglow of surrender. You wake up one day and realize you're no longer fighting with life. You're flowing with it. You stop asking, why me? And start whispering, thank you. Even for the heartbreaks, even for the endings, even for the moments that nearly broke you. Because now You can finally see what they were building inside you. See, surrender was never weakness. It was wisdom disguised as stillness. It's the point where you stop forcing and start trusting, where strength no longer looks like holding on, but like letting go with grace. There's a different kind of power in that, not the loud kind that dominates rooms or wins arguments, but the quiet power of someone who's made peace with uncertainty and still chooses to love, still chooses to show up, still chooses to shine. When you reach that space, something shifts inside you. The same things that used to trigger, you don't hold the same weight anymore. You stop reacting and start responding. You stop seeking approval and start honoring your truth. You stop chasing more and begin appreciating enough. That's what real strength looks like. Not perfection, not control, but presence. The ability to be here, right now, and know that even if everything changes tomorrow, you'll still be okay. Because your peace no longer depends on the world staying still. It lives inside you now. There's this quiet courage in people who've been through hell and come back softer, not harder. Maybe that's you. Maybe you walked through things you thought would destroy you, and somehow you're still here breathing, feeling, growing. That softness isn't fragility. It's power refined by pain. You've learned that resilience isn't about never falling. It's about learning to fall beautifully, to rise slowly, to smile again even when you don't have all the answers. The truth is, life will never stop asking you to release something. A dream, a plan, a version of yourself. But every time you do, you expand. You make more room for the next blessing, the next evolution, the next miracle. Surrender isn't a single act. It's a rhythm, a daily dance between effort and ease. You learn to work hard, but not to force. To care deeply, but not to cling. To love fully, but not to lose yourself. And maybe that's the greatest freedom of all. The ability to live open, to meet every moment as it is, without needing it to be anything else. Imagine that. Waking up with gratitude instead of fear, showing up without the weight of control, loving people without the need to fix them. That's not apathy, that's awakening. That's what the ancient teachings meant when they spoke of liberation, not escaping the world, but moving through it unchained. I've seen people chase success, money, validation, thinking freedom was out there somewhere, waiting at the finish line. But freedom isn't a prize you win. It's a choice you make moment by moment. It's deciding, I will no longer let the outside world decide my inner peace. It's understanding that everything you seek, love, peace, fulfillment, is already within you, waiting for you to stop searching long enough to feel it. So here's what I'll tell you. Start now. Not next week. Not when everything's perfect. Right now. Take a breath. Let go of that one thought that's been weighing you down. The one that says you're not enough, not ready, not there yet. Exhale it. Then look around you. The life you've been waiting for isn't coming. It's already here, in this breath, in this moment, in this heartbeat. And if these words reach you, if you feel that quiet spark of truth inside your chest, don't let it fade. Stay with this energy. Subscribe to this channel. Not because it's just another voice online, but because together we're building something rare, a space where stillness, truth, and transformation meet. Every week, we dive deeper into what it really means to live awake. Not perfectly, but honestly. So let's keep walking this path together. Keep unlearning what the world taught you about control, success, and fear. Keep remembering what your soul already knows. That freedom isn't found in the fight, but in the surrender. Because at the end of it all, when the noise fades and the masks fall away, you'll see the truth as clear as the morning light. You were never broken. You were breaking open. There's a strange kind of madness to modern life. We wake up already racing the clock, racing expectations, racing an invisible tide that keeps whispering you're behind. Notifications buzz like tiny alarms reminding us that the world won't stop spinning, not even for a breath. Everywhere we turn, someone is shouting louder, moving faster, selling harder. And in that noise, we start to forget what silence sounds like. We start to forget what we sound like. But here's the truth that no one talks about. The real revolution isn't happening in protests or politics or on glowing screens. It's happening quietly, in living rooms and morning coffees, in meditation mats and long walks alone. It's happening every time someone chooses presence over pressure, compassion over competition, awareness over autopilot. This is the revolution of the awake, the ones who no longer chase the world but choose to see it. When you wake up to your life, truly wake up, everything changes. You start to notice the smallest details, the way sunlight dances across your kitchen table, the sound of your own breathing, the warmth of a stranger's smile. You realize that life isn't waiting for you at the end of some grand goal. It's happening right now, in these ordinary, sacred moments. And that realization is liberation. Because once you see that, you stop chasing. You start being. But being awake in a sleeping world isn't easy. It means you'll sometimes feel out of place. While everyone else is running faster, you'll feel the pull to slow down. While others argue about who's right, you'll crave understanding. While the world glorifies noise, you'll fall in love with quiet. And that's okay. That's not weakness. That's consciousness. That's what it means to walk through the fire without becoming it. There will be days when you doubt it, when you'll want to slip back into the comfort of distraction, when silence feels too raw, when awareness hurts more than ignorance. But remember this, awareness is supposed to sting at first. It's the price of seeing clearly. You can't wake up without facing the parts of yourself you once tried to avoid. You can't step into peace without passing through discomfort. But every time you face yourself with honesty instead of judgment, you reclaim a little more of your power. And that power doesn't look like what we've been taught. It's not loud. It's not aggressive. It's not about dominating life. It's about aligning with it. It's the strength to stay soft in a world that rewards hardness. The courage to feel when it's easier to numb. The wisdom to pause when everyone else reacts. That's what living awake looks like. Not perfection, but awareness. Not control, but connection. The world needs that kind of strength now more than ever. We're drowning in information, but starving for truth. We scroll endlessly, but rarely see. We communicate constantly, but forget to connect. But you, the one listening to this right now, you have the power to be different, to be the calm in the storm, to be the reminder that humanity still breathes beneath the noise. Every time you choose mindfulness over madness, kindness over chaos, love over fear, you become part of this quiet revolution. And the beauty of this revolution is that it doesn't need crowds. It starts one heart at a time. It starts when you choose peace instead of panic, when you listen without judgment, when you forgive instead of fight. It spreads through energy, through presence, through the way your stillness calms a room without saying a word. Because awakened energy is contagious, and the world can feel it, even if it can't explain it. So maybe we can't change the whole world overnight, but we can change the frequency of it. We can create ripples. We can start right here, with you, with me, with this moment. Every time you return to your breath, every time you bring awareness to a simple act, drinking water, washing your hands, speaking kindly, you are bringing light into a darkened world. If this speaks to you, If you feel something stirring inside, that quiet recognition that says, yes, this is a path, then stay with me. Subscribe to this channel, not as a follower, but as a participant in this awakening. Together, we're not escaping the chaos. We're learning how to move through the wake, anchored, unshaken. Because maybe the world doesn't need more noise. Maybe it needs more hearts that listen. Maybe it doesn't need louder leaders. Maybe it needs calmer souls. Maybe it's not about building something new, but remembering what's always been within us. Stillness, compassion, awareness, love. This is a quiet revolution. It won't trend, it won't shout, it won't demand, but it will transform everything it touches. One moment, one breath, one soul at a time. There comes a point in your journey when you stop searching, not because you've given up, but because you finally realize what you've been chasing has been within you all along. The peace, the clarity, the love, the freedom. It was never somewhere out there. It was waiting behind every moment you resisted, behind every truth you avoided, behind the noise of everything you thought you needed to become. And when that realization lands, when it truly lands, something inside you exhales for the first time in years. You come home. Coming home isn't about returning to the past. It's about returning to yourself, to that quiet, unshakable presence that's been there since the beginning. The child who once looked at the world with wonder. The soul who didn't yet believe they had to prove their worth. The one who could just be. That's who you're returning to. That's who you've been trying to remember through all the noise, through all the striving, through all the seeking. For most of us, life pulls us so far from that center that we forget it exists. We build identities, achievements, masks, all these beautiful, fragile things. And somewhere along the way, we start believing that's who we are. But when you strip it all away, the titles, the followers, the expectations, the scars, what's left is the truth. And the truth is simple. You are not what happens to you. You are not what you own. You are not even your thoughts. You are the awareness that witnesses it all. That realization changes everything. Suddenly, you don't need life to go your way in order to feel peace. You can be at ease even in uncertainty. You can find stillness even in chaos. Because now you understand, peace was never something to achieve. It was something to remember. And that's what coming home feels like. Remembering that you already are what you've been looking for. You'll notice it in the little things first. The way you don't rush to fill every silence. The way you listen without needing to respond. The way you look at someone and truly see them, not through judgment, but through love. That's presence. That's awakening. And it's contagious because when you live from that space, people feel it. They may not know what's changed about you, but they feel calmer in your presence. You become a mirror, reflecting peace back into a world that's forgotten how to breathe. Of course, this return isn't a one-time event. It's not a mountaintop you reach and stay upon forever. It's a daily practice, a constant remembering. Some days you'll feel aligned, steady, open, free, and some days you'll get pulled back into fear, doubt, or distraction. But even then, you'll know the way back. You'll know how to breathe, how to pause, how to listen, and that knowing, that ability to return, that's what makes you unbreakable. Coming home also means forgiving yourself for all the ways you abandoned your peace, for all the times you chased approval, for all the moments you forgot who you were. Forgiveness isn't weakness. It's release. It's saying, I no longer owe my past the power to define my present. You can't walk freely while carrying the weight of every mistake. So let it go. You learned. You grew. And that's enough. And here's something beautiful. When you truly come home to yourself, you stop trying to fix others. You stop trying to control outcomes. You realize that your peace doesn't depend on anyone else's behavior. You can love people deeply without needing them to change. You can give without losing yourself. You can stay open even when the world feels closed. Because your peace is no longer reaction. It's your foundation. That's the moment you understand what all the teachers, poets, and mystics were pointing when they said, be still and know that stillness is your home. It's not something you earn through effort or deserve through suffering. It's what you've always been. So if you're hearing this right now, maybe you've been walking through your own kind of storm, trying to find your way back. I want you to know you're not lost. You're just in the process of remembering. And one day soon, you'll look around and realize you've been home all along. And if these words speak to something deep inside you, that quiet voice whispering, yes, this is what I've been looking for, then stay with me. Subscribe to this channel, not out of habit, but as an act of devotion to your own awakening. Every week, we're walking each other home, through wisdom, through presence, through truth. Because the journey isn't about escaping the world. It's about learning to live in it, fully awake, deeply rooted, and endlessly free. And maybe that's what enlightenment really is, not some grand moment of light, but the simple, steady return to yourself. The quiet realization that the peace you've been seeking was always you. There's a sacred kind of magic that happens when you finally stop rushing through your life and start living it. When you stop treating the present moment as a bridge to somewhere better and begin to see it for what it really is, the only place you've ever truly been alive. The truth is, we spend so much of our lives elsewhere, replaying what's gone, rehearsing what's next, drowning in noise, lost in the endless scroll of someday. But life doesn't wait for us there. It waits here, in this breath, in this heartbeat. In this ordinary, holy now, presence is the art of coming back, not perfection, not control, but to awareness. It's the moment when you realize that everything you've been yearning for has always been right in front of you. You don't need more time. You need more attention. Because the moment you give something your full attention, it transforms. The mundane becomes meaningful. The small becomes sacred. Even washing a cup, feeling the water run across your hands. If you do it with awareness, it becomes meditation. I remember once sitting by a window, watching sunlight spill across the floor. There was nothing special happening. Just light, just silence, just breath. And yet, in that stillness, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. It was as if the world had stopped trying to impress me and had finally let me see it raw, unfiltered, real. That's what presence gives you. The ability to experience life not as a list of things to do, but as a living, breathing miracle unfolding right now. But here's the thing. Presence isn't passive. It's not about withdrawing from life. It's about engaging with it more fully. It's showing up completely for whatever's in front of you. The conversation, the meal, the sunset, the pain. It's saying, I'm here, I'm listening. Even when it's uncomfortable, even when your mind wants to escape. Because presence isn't about feeling good. It's about being real. And when you start living that way, love changes too. You stop loving from habit or fear or need. You start loving from awareness. You see people as they are, not as who you wish they'd be. You listen without waiting for your turn to speak. You give without keeping score. You hold someone's hand and actually feel it, the warmth, the pulse, the shared humanity. That's love in its purest form, attention, because presence is love made visible. You also begin to see that every moment, even the hard ones, carries its own kind of beauty. The ache of loss, the uncertainty of change, the silence after goodbye. They all hold lessons that can't be learned any other way. When you're present, even pain becomes sacred because you're no longer resisting it. You're allowing it to pass through you, to soften you, to teach you. That's how life heals, not through denial, but through attention. The gift of presence is that it anchors you in what's real. It pulls you out of the fog of what if and what was, and plants you firmly in the truth of what is. And in that truth, you find something that no amount of success or distraction can offer. Peace. Not the peace of everything being perfect, but the peace of being fully here. Imperfect, human, alive. And maybe this is the real meaning of spirituality. Not escaping the ordinary, but learning to see the divine in it. The way sunlight touches your skin. The laughter between friends. The quiet moments before sleep. These aren't background details. They're the essence of life itself. And when you begin to see that, gratitude becomes your default setting. You stop asking what's next and start whispering, thank you. So if you're listening right now, take a breath. Feel the air move in and out of your body. Notice that you are alive right now in this exact moment, and that's enough. You don't need to chase meaning. You are meaning. And if these words remind you of something you've always known but maybe forgot, something soft, something real, then stay close. Subscribe, not for more noise, but for more stillness. Each week, we walk deeper into the kind of awareness that turns life into art. Not by adding more, but by seeing more. Because the greatest gift you can give yourself and the world is your full presence. Not your plans, not your perfection, just your being here. So breathe, look around, let the moment touch you, let it change you, let it remind you that this right here, right now, is it? The miracle you've been waiting for has already arrived. There comes a time on this journey when the words begin to fade, when explanations, affirmations, and even the need to understand all begin to loosen their hold. It's not that you stop caring. It's that you finally realize that truth doesn't always need to be spoken to be known. The deepest parts of your awakening will happen in silence, not the absence of sound, but the presence of something greater, something that speaks beneath the noise. Silence isn't empty. It's full of guidance, full of clarity, full of everything you've been trying to hear through the chaos. But most of us have forgotten how to listen to it. We've grown addicted to stimulation, to answers, to motion. We fill every quiet space with distraction because we're afraid of what the silence might reveal. But the truth is, silence doesn't expose your emptiness. It reveals your depth. It reminds you that you've always been more than your thoughts, your plans, your fears. There's a kind of wisdom that only whispers. It doesn't compete with the world's volume. It doesn't fight for your attention. It waits, patiently, quietly, for you to stop running long enough to hear it. That whisper is your soul, and it's been speaking to you all along, in the pauses between breaths, in the pull of intuition, in the strange knowing that can't be explained. You've just been too busy filling the space to notice. The unseen path, the path of silence, of still listening, isn't glamorous. There are no trophies for it, no likes, no applause. But it's the path that will transform you the most. Because in silence, you start to see life without the filter of your mind. You stop reacting and start receiving. You stop needing answers and start trusting the questions. And in that trust, something beautiful unfolds. Not clarity that comes from knowing, but peace that comes from surrendering the need to know. I've learned that silence doesn't mean nothing's happening. In fact, it's where the real transformation takes root. Think of the seed buried underground. It looks lifeless, forgotten, but in that quiet darkness, it's preparing to bloom. The same is true for us. The times when it feels like nothing is moving, nothing is growing. That's when your soul is doing its most sacred work, but you have to give it space. You have to allow the stillness. It can feel uncomfortable at first, even unbearable. Your mind will try to drag you back to noise, to the endless scroll, to the next distraction, to anything that keeps you from meeting yourself. But if you stay, if you breathe through the restlessness, if you let the silence wrap around you like an old friend, you will begin to hear what you were never able to before. And in that hearing, you'll find guidance, not from outside voices, but from within, a soft, intuitive knowing that doesn't shout but gently nudges. It's the same knowing that told you to walk away from what no longer served you. The same voice that whispered, "You deserve more," when you doubted your worth. The same quiet strength that helped you survive what you thought you couldn't. That voice is your compass. That's what silence gives you. Reconnection to your own truth. The more you trust that voice, the less lost you feel. You begin to walk differently, slower, but surer. You begin to speak less, but when you do, your words carry weight. You begin to see that peace doesn't need to be announced. It radiates. Presence doesn't need to prove itself. It's felt. The unseen path teaches you that everything meaningful moves quietly. Growth, healing, forgiveness, love. The loudest things in the world are often the most fragile. The quiet things, they endure. And maybe that's what we're all learning now. How to honor the quiet. How to listen not just to respond, but to receive. How to make peace with pauses, with unanswered prayers, with moments that don't make sense yet. Because silence isn't the end of your story. It's a chapter where your soul writes what words never could. So if you're walking through that silent space right now, where life feels still, where the path ahead isn't clear, don't rush it. Don't fill it. Just be there. Listen. Breathe. Trust. The unseen path always leads somewhere sacred. And if these words meet you there, in that quiet, tender place, then stay with me. Subscribe not for noise or answers, but for reminders like this, that stillness isn't empty, that silence heals, and that sometimes the most powerful thing you could do is nothing at all. Just be, because in the end, silence isn't the absence of life. It's the sound of your soul remembering who you are. There will always be darkness in this world, in the news, in the streets, in the quiet corners of our own hearts. You can't avoid it. You can't outrun it. You can't fix it all. But you can choose to become something that stands against it, not with noise, not with anger, but with light. And that light doesn't come from pretending the dark isn't there. It comes from walking straight into it, with your eyes open and your heart unafraid. The truth is, light doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't need to be loud to be powerful. It doesn't argue with the dark. It simply shines and the darkness disappears. That's who you are meant to be. A presence that heals just by being there. A calm voice in a loud room. A steady heart in a world that's constantly shaking. And you don't have to be perfect to shine. You just have to be honest. Because the world doesn't need another flawless soul. It needs someone who's real. We've been taught to look for light outside of us. In heroes, in gurus, in something greater than ourselves. But the moment you start looking within, you realize something extraordinary. The light you've been searching for has always been burning in your own chest. Maybe it flickered. Maybe it dimmed. Maybe life tried to cover it with pain or fear or doubt. But it never went out. It was just waiting for you to remember it. You don't need to do anything grand to live as light. You don't have to save the world. Just touch it with kindness. Just choose compassion when it's easier to judge. Just smile at a stranger who looks like they've forgotten what warmth feels like. Just listen when someone needs to be heard. That's how light spreads, not through force, but through presence, one gentle act at a time. And don't be fooled into thinking that your small light doesn't matter. The darkest night is moved by a single flame. The smallest spark can set the whole forest aglow. Every word you speak in love, every moment you choose peace over anger, every time you forgive when it would be easy to hate, that's you lighting the world one breath at a time. You never know who's watching you quietly, finding hope because you didn't give up. You never know how far your light travels. But here's the thing about light. It's not always soft. Sometimes it burns. Sometimes it exposes a truth you'd rather avoid. Sometimes it forces you to face the shadow you've been denying. But that's part of the process too. Because real light doesn't just comfort, it transforms. It burns away illusion. It reveals. It frees. And yes, it can hurt at first. But that's how growth feels, like a flame clearing space for something new. There's something deeply powerful about choosing to stay kind in a world that rewards cruelty, about keeping your heart open when it would be safer to shut it down, about choosing understanding over pride, love over fear. That's what makes you luminous, not your perfection, but your persistence. The way you keep showing up with tenderness even after being hurt. The way you keep believing in beauty even when the world feels broken. That's real strength. That's real light. And maybe one day you'll look back and realize that everything you've been through, every heartbreak, every loss, every storm was shaping you for this. To be a light not despite your scars, but because of them. Your pain softened you. Your struggle made you wise. Your darkness taught you how to shine. And now, you carry that quiet glow wherever you go. So if you ever start to doubt your impact, remember this. Somewhere, someone feels less alone because of your existence. Somewhere, someone took a breath of hope because of your kindness. Somewhere, the darkness trembled because you refused to dim. That's how powerful your light truly is. And if this message finds you tonight, maybe in one of those moments when the world feels heavy, let it remind you, your light still matters. You still matter. Don't hide it. Don't shrink it to make others comfortable. Don't wait until you figure it all out. The world doesn't need your perfection. It needs your presence. It needs you right now, exactly as you are, imperfect, luminous, alive. So stay, shine, and if these words awaken something within you, that small, sacred fire that's been waiting to rise again, then come with me. Subscribe, not just to this channel, but to your own becoming. Together, we're learning how to be light in dark places, not by escaping the world, but by illuminating it. Because at the end of it all, it's not about being the brightest. It's about being real. It's about being kind. It's about being someone who chooses to shine anyway. And maybe that's what you were born for, not to chase the light, but to be it. There's a moment, somewhere at the end of every journey, when words begin to fade and silence starts to speak louder than anything else. And maybe this is that moment, the quiet after everything we've shared, where all the teachings, all the reflections, all the stories about peace, letting go, pain, and awakening settle softly into your heart like dust after a long storm. Because truthfully, what we've been talking about all along isn't Buddhism or philosophy, or even spirituality. It's life. It's the art of being human, raw, imperfect, and endlessly becoming. We started with the illusion of calm, with the idea that peace was about staying still, staying silent, staying composed. But somewhere along the way, you realize it was never about pretending. It was about facing what's real, the chaos, the heartbreak, the uncertainty, and choosing to breathe through it anyway. We walked the fire of letting go. We faced the shadows of pain. And we learned that freedom isn't about escape. It's about acceptance. We discovered that the present moment isn't something you chase. It's something you return to. That love isn't a promise of forever, but the courage to open your heart now, even when you know it might break later. And maybe, just maybe, you've started to feel something shift inside you. Not in a dramatic way, but quietly, like the tide turning, like a soft light filling a dark room. That's what truth does. It doesn't always change your life overnight. It changes the way you see your life. And once you start seeing differently, everything begins to move in a new direction. I don't know what you're carrying right now. The pain you don't talk about, the dreams you've buried, the doubts that whisper when the world goes quiet. But I want you to know this. You're not alone. Every soul who's ever searched for meaning, every person who's ever looked up at the sky and asked, "Why am I here?" You're one of them. You're part of something ancient, something sacred, something shared. And the fact that you're still here, still listening, still trying to understand, that means your spirit is alive and fighting, even when you can't see it. So maybe this isn't the end after all. Maybe it's just another beginning, a softer one, a wiser one. Maybe from here on out, you start showing up differently. You start noticing the quiet beauty in small moments. You start forgiving yourself a little faster. You start speaking kinder words to your own reflection. You start realizing that enlightenment isn't some faraway mountain. It's the space between two deep breaths. It's in your next act of kindness. It's in the way you choose to stay when things get hard. And if this message has found its way into your heart, if it's reminded you of something you already knew deep down, but somehow forgot, then stay connected, not just to me, but to the path itself. Because every time you listen, reflect, and open your heart, you keep that inner light alive. So if you haven't yet, subscribe, not out of habit, but out of intention. Let this be a small ritual, a quiet promise to yourself to keep growing, to keep learning, to keep coming home to who you really are. This channel isn't about perfection. It's not about being spiritual all the time or having all the answers. It's about walking together through the mystery, one question, one story, one truth at a time. It's about reminding each other that we're all just souls trying to find peace in a noisy world. And if these words have ever touched you, if they've given you even one moment of stillness, one breath of clarity, one tear release, then you already understand the purpose of all this: connection, awareness, light. So before we go, I just want to say thank you, truly. Thank you for listening, for feeling, for being here. Thank you for giving these thoughts a home in your heart. Wherever you are right now, in your car, in your room, under a quiet sky, take a deep breath. Feel it. That's life moving through you. That's presence. That's grace. And as you move forward, remember this: you don't need to be anyone else. You don't need to chase peace. You are peace. You don't need to seek the light. You are the light. You don't need to find the path. You are the path. So go on, live gently, love deeply, and let your existence be the proof that even in a world like this, stillness and compassion can survive. And if your heart ever starts to forget, you know where to return. Come back here. Come back home. Subscribe, stay connected, and let's keep walking together toward the quiet truth that's always been waiting inside you. Because this isn't goodbye. This is just the next step. Herb Sparkles.